Thank you, Sadie. I think that's also helpful to know because that's something that we can share with others who have not been able to come today. Is that correct?
Yes.
Great. That's really good to know.
Here?
Michal is here as well.
Yeah, I'm
Oh,
here.
there you are.
Hey.
Sorry. It says Mohammed on your screen, Michal, but
Oh,
I
really?
recognize you and you don't look like Mohammed.
That's weird because it's my phone. Mohammed, what are you doing here?
Hi,
Maybe you should change
everybody.
change the
Okay,
name,
try.
Michal.
I'm
Change
having
the
a
name.
little bit of difficulty.
It
so I have
shows
to
how
do it
in
through my
sync the
phone.
two of you are, that Mohammed's name is on your phone. Hi, everybody. I'm Judith Scheuer, and I'm on the board in the United States. And I just want to welcome you and especially welcome and introduce Mohammad and Michal. And I have a feeling that a lot of you, if not all of you, know them, especially Mohammad, who seems to know everybody, or everybody knows Mohammad, and who's also done an amazing job in so many ways, and especially in bringing wonderful people onto the board of Givat Haviva in the United States. And Mohammed's our director of strategy, and it often feels like strategy is everything. And Mohammad embodies so much of what Givat Haviva is about and what its mission is and what's important. And Michal is with us, and Michal has only been with us for a few years, but it feels in many ways like a very long time because Michal, it feels like you just have jumped in and blended in and taken on everything. And to have both of your thoughtful and trustworthy and in tune voices, excuse me, here today for us to listen to and to ask questions is huge. And we're lucky to have that, especially at a time like this, with everything that's going on. So welcome, Michal and Mohammed, and thank you for having this. Thank you also to Sadie and Neely for setting this up. And I'll turn it back to you, Mohammed.
Well, actually, as you see the schedule in the chat, and maybe Sadie put it back for a minute for everyone to see it, we're going to have two sections of the program. The first section is to discuss the political situation in Israel and its impact on Givat Haviva, and Michal is going to be leading us into this discussion. So she'll start with about 15 to 20 minutes of screening of the situation, and then she and I will engage in a Q&A discussion with you. And then we're going to be presenting to you a program of Givat Haviva. Many have asked, many of the people that are registered for the discussion here today have asked to talk about specific programs of Givat Haviva. We have Jinan plus a couple of the youth participants, 4 participants that are part of our program, which is called Through Others' Eyes. So they will present their program. They will present their interaction as Jewish and Arab youth, and then we'll have another discussion together. All in all, we will end on time. We aspire to end on time. We will have 2 opportunities for you as audience to engage in Q&A according to the schedule. This is based on US time, so for people from other places in the world, please take into consideration that time consideration. Right now, Israel time is 8:39. From here, you can compare it. So, Michal, off to you.
Sure. Thank you, Mohammed. And hi, everyone. It's really good to see you. I think I know everyone, but if there is someone that I don't know, so I'm Michal Sella. I'm the CEO of Givat Haviva. Sadie, can I share screen? Because I made a little presentation for us today.
Yes, you should be able to.
Can you see this?
Yes.
Okay, amazing. So I thought that we'll talk a little bit about what's happening now in Israel and the democratic or judicial crisis constitutional crisis that we are experiencing. I'll start with talking a little bit about the kind of government that we have and why we think it's so extreme, because one can think that, okay, we had, right-wing governments throughout the years and it wasn't that extreme, but I think that there's something unique in this specific government. So we'll talk about this for a few minutes. Then I thought that for those of you that don't really know the basic structure of the Israel democracy and why this wave or tsunami of legislation is so dangerous for the democratic structure, we'll talk a little bit about that and about what kind of bills and laws this government is trying to pass and why they're so dangerous. And then a bit about what we can do and what we are doing in Israel society and in Givat Haviva, and how all of it relates to the work that we do in Givat Haviva. What are the threats and maybe obstacles that this situation can bring to the door or like in front of us in Givat Haviva. So let's start. But now it's not working, of course. Let me understand why for a minute. Just a second. Wait. Of course, no matter how many times you are checking it before you share it, it's still not working. So give me 30 seconds, I'll fix it. Just a minute. It worked a second ago. Here it is. Okay, so a bit about the Israeli government, okay? This is the most radical government we saw in Israel by far. Even in the last, 15 years, although you can argue, and you'll be right to argue, that we had mainly extreme right government. This one is very, very extreme when it comes to what we call basic liberalism in Israel. So, for instance, only 5 women are members of the government out of 31 members. Remember that we're talking about the second largest government that we ever had, and still we only have 5 women in central roles as ministers. This considered to be a very, very extreme situation after a government that had roughly 35% of women. Now we're talking about, I think, 16% of women in the government. We have 2 parties that are part of this government with clear racist agenda. They're talking against LGBTQ rights, which is something very normal in Israel, and it brings and causes a lot of fear in the streets of Tel Aviv. They're talking about anti-women's rights. They're even talking about abortions for the first time in Israel. We never had this discussion. They're talking about not allowing women to be part of specific roles in the army. One minister, for instance, talked about the role of a woman in Israel, and he said that a woman shouldn't be part of the political system and they don't need to run for office because every Jewish woman in Israel can affect the political system through her husband. So her husband's supposed to run for office, and the woman is supposed to, to feel proud and to feel that he's there for her. That's something really, really extreme to say in Israel. We're talking about a country that, for the first day allowed women to vote and to be part of the political system. So it's a huge, it's not just a leap backward, it's reversing the country's main values, okay? So we're talking about like severe anti-liberalism point of view from two very important parts of this government. Instead of scanning the government and talking about every minister and every party, I thought that maybe we can understand this government in a nutshell if we'll dive into the word of Itamar Ben-Gvir. I don't know if you heard about him, but Itamar Ben-Gvir is one of the most, not the most radical, I guess, but one of the most radical right-wing politicians in Israel. And for the first time, he is a minister in Israel. I think that it would be fair to say that most of us never thought that this guy can be part of the government, mainly because he was targeted by the Shin Bet, the Secret Service of Israel, for many, many years as a leading figure in Jewish terrorist organizations and Jewish terrorist groups. So we'll be back for this in a second, but I just brought you some picture from Itamar Ben-Gvir past. So in the picture that you see here from 1995, this is the year that Rabin was killed. We have a very, very famous video of Itamar Ben-Gvir holding the symbol of the Cadillac of the Prime Minister and saying to a reporter that Rabin should pay for what he's doing, and if he could get the symbol of his car, he can surely get to Rabin himself. And he was kind of threatening the Prime Minister. That's when the Shin Bet started to follow him, because he was very, very violent. He supported Rabin's assassination, and he then started to be considered as the head of the extreme, very violent, very scary back then alt-right in Israel. The other picture is quite new, right? It's from 2021, and you can see Itamar Ben-Gvir kicking a woman on the demonstration of Pride Week, the LGBTQ Pride Week in Israel. So we're talking about a bully, right? That was followed by Israeli police and Israeli Secret Service. I wanted to talk about Itamar Ben-Gvir because it may seem as like a small thing, but I thought that it's an interesting fact that you should know that can maybe make you understand what kind of government these guys formed, okay? And I'm saying guys because it's mainly guys. So Itamar Ben-Gvir is the Minister of National Security, okay? Basically, he's the Minister of Police, okay? This ministry was called throughout the years the Ministry of Bitachon Pnim, Internal Security, okay? The Ministry of Defense in Israel is not really the Minister of Defense. If you're really translating from Hebrew, the Ministry of Defense in Israel is the Ministry of Security. So we have two ministries responsible for the security of the citizens of Israel. The Ministry of Security is responsible for, all the threats from outside, is responsible of the army, of protecting us from other countries, Iran, etc. It's like the Ministry of Defense, but it's called the Ministry of Security. And the second ministry, the Ministry of Internal Security, is responsible of our security as citizens from threats from inside, for instance, crime, right? Because the Ministry of Police. In the coalition agreements, Itamar Ben-Gvir knew that he wants to be the Minister of Police, but he specifically demanded and asked that the ministry name will be changed, and it won't be called anymore, like from the beginning of from the early days of the state, it won't be called the Ministry of Internal Security. It will be called the Ministry of National Security. And it may seem for you as like a small change, but it's not, because the national security means in Israel, in Hebrew, it means the security of the Jewish nationality. Mohammad and I share citizenship, but we do not share nationality. Okay, Mohammad is Arab, a Palestinian. He can, decide for himself. But my nationality is Jewish. So when Itamar Ben-Gvir decides to call the Ministry of Police the Ministry of National Security, he's saying that he is the minister responsible for the security of the Jews in Israel, and that the police in Israel is responsible for the security of the Jews in Israel. what kind of threats do you have as a Jew in Israel if you're talking about internal security? I will argue that he's talking about the Israeli Arabs or Israeli Palestinians are co-patriots and citizens of Israel that he sees as an immediate threat on the Jewish nationality. And I think that with this little fact that people that are not from Israel cannot understand, because I'm sure you're not sensitive to the meaning of the titles of each ministry in Israel. With this little fact, we can understand how radical the approach of this government. When in the coalition agreements from the first day of this government, they decided to change the name of the police ministry from something that's supposed to protect all of the citizens of Israel to something that's supposed to protect only the Jewish nationality in Israel, and see the Arab Palestinians, citizens of Israel, as the enemy of the Jewish nationality. So after we established, or I tried to establish, that this government is unique in the way they see the Arab population and the way they treat the Arab population, let's talk about the basic Israeli political structure, okay? It's very different from the American structure and also from the most of the European country structure. Basically, we have 3 branches of government. We have the government, which is the strongest branch of government. And then we have the Knesset, which is supposed to be, the second, the legislative branch of government, but it's very, very weak in Israel. And I have to explain why, because I think that people that come from countries where you have 2 houses, sometimes it's hard to understand how weak is the parliament if you only have 1 house. So the basic idea is this. The government is the coalition, right? And the coalition is always the majority of the parliament, in the parliament. So basically, if the coalition is working together, if the government is working in a good way, they will always be the majority of the Knesset. So every piece of legislation that they will want to pass, they will be able to pass it because they're the automatic majority. And the opposition in Israel is always the minority. So if they want to pass a piece of legislation, they have to have partners within the coalition that will vote for them to gain a majority. Let me know if I'm not clear, but basically what I'm trying to show you is that if the government and the coalition really wants to control the Knesset, the parliament, they can, because they're the automatic majority. And that leaves the Knesset, our parliament, very, very weak. If you talk about checks and balances, it's very, very hard for the Knesset, for the parliament, to try to limit the government, the coalition, okay? So the only branch of government that we have that can create the sense of checks and balances within this system is the court, the Supreme Court. And that's why the court in Israel can override the decision of the parliament. Because the decision of the parliament, again, is always the decision of the coalition, because they're the majority. So the court can sometimes, and they're not doing it many times, they're very, very careful with it, but they can cancel a piece of legislation if this piece of legislation is working against the basic law in Israel. We don't have a constitution, but we have few basic laws, and the court can override the Knesset decision if they can show that it contradicts with the basic law. This is our legal structure, our political structure. Sorry. So why is this, why everybody are talking about this legislation tsunami, or what we call the judicial coup that they're trying to do? That's because this government from day one started to propose a series of laws and bills that's supposed to take most of the power from the court. And as I showed you, if you take the power from the court in Israel, you really don't. Sorry? Anyone had a question or? Okay. So I didn't bring here all the bills and legislation on piece of legislation that are trying to promote, only like the really, really scary ones, okay? So let's pass through the list very quickly, and you'll see what I'm talking about. So the first bill is the appointing judges bill. Until now, politicians can't appoint judges in Israel by themselves. They need the agreement with other judges from the Supreme Court, and also the agreement of what we call, let's call it the lawyers' guild, okay? This new bill gives the politicians all the power to appoint judges. And that means that they can affect the Supreme Court and make it very, very political. And then maybe we can assume that the system of checks and balances can be harmed, okay? The second bill is the seniority bill. We have a seniority method where you know many, many years before someone gets to be the president of the Supreme Court, but it's not, you can't be elected to be the president of the Supreme Court, it's just by seniority. So it's supposed to give like, you know, a method where no one can really affect who is going to be the Supreme Court president, and they want to cancel it so the politicians can decide by themselves who is going to be the president of the Supreme Court. The override clause bill, that basically means that the Supreme Court will not be able to change or to cancel a law or a bill that passed the Knesset twice. That means that the Knesset can pass a bill and then the Supreme Court can say, okay, this bill is not legal because, you know, it contradicts the basic law in Israel. And then if the Knesset can pass it again, and for the coalition, it's very, very easy to do that. They can do it within a week. The Supreme Court will not be able to cancel the bill or the law. The subordinating police to lawmakers bill, that's a very dangerous bill that Itamar Ben-Gvir, the guy that we talked about earlier, is trying to promote. Today, the police is not really affected directly from the Minister of Police. They're trying to change it. So the Minister of the Police will be the chief of the police. And that's very, very dangerous for obvious reasons, because you don't want the police to be a political body, okay? You want to maybe keep some distance between the politician and the police forces. The legal advisors bill is a very dangerous bill. It says that every minister in Israel will be able to choose their legal advisors, okay, for the ministry. Today, you have a separation between the legal advisory of the state and politicians. And it's very, very important because then they are independent and they can say, and they can stand in front of the politician, in front of the minister and say, excuse me, what the thing that you're trying to do is illegal. So I will not protect you. But if this guy was brought there if the legal advisor was brought there by the politician, of course, we can assume that he won't be able to say it, right? The Dairy Second or Dairy 2 bill, it's a personal bill for Aryeh Deri. He's one of the ministers from an ultra-Orthodox party, Shas. And it's basically a bill saying that they will prevent the judicial review of political appointments. The reason for this bill is that Aryeh Deri was convicted 2 years ago, and he's not allowed by law to be a minister. But Netanyahu wants him to be a minister, so they try to have a new bill passed to say that he can be a minister. It just happened maybe a month ago or 3 weeks ago. And then the court said that this law is illegal because it's a personal law. So now they're trying to promote the Dairy Second or Dairy 2 bill, and they was just trying to prevent the court from saying anything about political appointments. So of course we can see all of the checks and balances and the democratic system just collapsing in front of our eyes, because the only branch of government that will have any power over Israeli citizens will be the government. And the most powerful person in this government is Netanyahu. So basically we're talking about a new kind of state controlled totally by one person, with no legal rights for the citizens of this country. And then we argue that it will be very, very hard to call this country a democracy.
Okay,
What
I
are they
will just.
Yeah.
Are you finished, Michal, or you have one more slide?
No, we have one more slide, just the expected results.
Sure.
I'm out of time. Oh, I have 2 minutes.
Yes.
The expected results. So first of all, we're talking about total politicization of the judicial system, like I showed you. No checks and balances anymore in this alleged democracy. No elementary protection of human or civil rights. And as I started with it, and now I will close with it, we expect that the first group targeted by the government will be the Arab or Palestinian citizens of Israel. And that affects Givat Haviva in many ways. I will jump over this huge demonstration because I wanted to show you how Israeli society is fighting back, but maybe we'll save it for the Q&A, and I will jump to how it affects Givat Haviva. This situation can affect Givat Haviva in many ways. First of all, it affects our core values as shared society organization, right? Because it affects the sense or the idea that Palestinian citizens of Israel should be equal citizens. It affects the core value of democracy and liberalism and equality in Israeli society. It affects our education programs because the minister, actually we can talk about it a little bit later, but a minister within the Ministry of Education, because we now have 2.5 ministers of education, actually named Givat Haviva as one of the organizations that should be targeted by the government, and he planned to cancel our education programs. Luckily, he resigned a week and a half or 2 weeks ago, so I don't think we're in that risk anymore, but still they are targeting liberal and democratic education programs like we have in Givat Haviva. That's why we established the Public Education Guard. If you're interested, we can elaborate about this later, but it's basically an umbrella project or an umbrella organization that's supposed to protect liberal organizations educating the youth in Israel. And also we're working, and we need to work more because it affects us, about involving the Arab society in the huge protests that we have now in Israel, because if we want a shared society, we also need to bring all of the groups in society into this protest and understanding the risks that we're now experiencing on our, core values as a democracy. That's the brief, Mohammad. Now I'm done.
Thank you. I will just add one more sentence. Let's remember all that politically this government came into power with a campaign that was basically complaining about the political participation of an Arab political party in the previous coalition. I mean, that drive that Netanyahu was able to, or the political campaign was saying that a government that has an Arab party as part of the coalition is not a legitimate government in Israel. That an Arab vote is good enough maybe just to be in the Knesset, but not to be part of the executive body, not to be part of the government in the state of Israel. And the whole campaign was going into that direction. And they feel that they won that argument in Israel. They say the decision of the voters was 64 to 56 voters. And as such, they have the mandate to continue with limiting the political rights and the political participation of Arab citizens. And there is a fear that one day this might come to the possibility of canceling the capacity of one or two of the Arab political parties in the next elections to even participate in the elections. This will contribute to less Arab representation in the Knesset. Maybe they will increase the threshold in entering the Knesset as they did in the past. The threshold used to be 1% of the total vote, which will allow a party to get in the Knesset. Slowly that was increased to 1.5%, then 2.5%, and now it stands at 3.25%, which means that smaller parties will have it more difficult to be able to enter the Knesset. And there's a likelihood that the legislation might continue in increasing the bar up to the level that it will eliminate Arab representation in the Knesset, but also will delegitimize the liberal camp in Israel from ever foreseeing the possibility of integrating an Arab political party in the decision-making apparatus in a future government in Israel. That's the ball game. This is the way the extreme right wing in Israel wants to guarantee a forever extreme right wing government by eliminating 17% of the voters from either participation in the elections or from even being counted when we talk about the creation or the formation of a government. So we have few minutes. Sorry, we have few minutes for Q&A on these topics, and then we will move into another segment, which is more examining a couple of programs with our facilitators and youth participants. So also you'll hear Jewish and Arab youth for participants that are already here with us. But for now, we have some Q&A and comments. Whoever wants to start, just raise a hand and we'll be able to call on you. Kathy, I see you already.
And also, Mohammed, we have a question from Alan about the Canadian structure.
Okay, so you want to take Alan and then we take Kathy?
Yeah, sure. Alan, do you want to ask the question or you want me to read it?
Ask it, Michal. Oh, ask it, Alan, sorry.
I'll read it because there's one typo. I know Netanyahu has said.
Alan, you look better in video, so.
That Netanyahu has said that this is used by Canada, and he used that to push this forward. The authoring of the what's called in Canada notwithstanding clause, now it's a long word, no one uses that word except for this, was in the 1980s and specifically given to support minorities, that the minorities would have a greater power. Did Netanyahu or any of the papers in Israel explain that it was designed for minorities?
Yeah, well, I think Netanyahu is using it in order to say to the Israeli public, don't worry about it. Like you have this, a lot of courts cannot change the parliament legislation in other countries from, a lot of reasons. I'm not an expert on the Canadian structure, but we do know that it's very, very hard to compare between the Israeli structure and the Canadian structure. And that's why, although you have this clause, it's not the same as in Israel, because you have other checks and balances on your government. For instance, you're a federation. You have other institutions that can pass laws. You have provinces. You have a different structure. So it's very, very hard to compare it. And I think that most academics and most experts in Israel, they will not oppose any kind of a notwithstanding clause like this, okay? But they will oppose the kind that Netanyahu wants to pass, or Yariv Levin, the Minister of Justice, want to pass, because this is a clause saying that in a small majority of 61 votes, they will be able to change the whole structure of Israel without any checks and balances from any institution, right? And also remember that the right for equality is part of the Canadian law. And we don't have a law talking about equality in Israel. So the only institution that can talk about equality and can decide which law is legal or not, looking at equality as a core value of our democracy, is the court. So it's very, very hard to use Canada in this argument, in my opinion.
Kathy, you wanted to ask?
Yeah, this is more broader than just the, governmental, situation that's going on. But is there any talk or hope from anybody that, given the large amount of demonstrations by the Israeli Jewish people, that this could somehow bring them and the Palestinians together somehow? I mean, not the governments, but the people themselves.
Mohammad, you want to take it?
Well, I'm not sure, Kathy, that it's easy to define this at this stage. I think that, there's a big discussion in the Palestinian field that, when the Palestinians elected Hamas in 2006, that the next day they woke up and they said, this is not exactly what we wanted. And all polls were showing that if elections will be redone in the Palestinian authorities, then the results would be absolutely different. That they created something which it was more of a knee-jerk reaction to the maybe against some of the policies of the Palestinian Authority or corruption in the Palestinian Authority, but didn't mean that they wanted something that bad. And this is pretty much a feeling today, that there's a feeling in Israeli society, that did vote the right wing into power, but there's a sense that the majority of Israelis do not want this government to be there. And as such, there's some kind of a delta between where the majority of Israelis really are versus the result of the elections. The question is, how can you translate this into actual impact on the current government, meaning limiting the government in its actions and how it performs so that it comes closer to mainstream Israeli society and less behave as an extreme radical right wing, because today the government is behaving more of an extreme radical right wing government, pretty much Benjamin Netanyahu allowing all of the different partners with him to do pretty much whatever they want. You're talking about a government that maybe not Netanyahu is administering all of the decisions into it. For example, the attack on the police force by the police minister, by the minister of police force. Do I think that Netanyahu actually is conducting that? No, but he's allowing his minister to do it because he doesn't want to make him angry. The same thing about what's called the Piskata Gabrut, which is the overriding clause to override the decisions of the Supreme Court. That's what Shas, the religious party, wants. Maybe not sure if Netanyahu wants that, but Shas wants it because they want to prevent recruitment of the religious people to the military. And Netanyahu is basically allowing them to have their own small successes in this law, in that law, in that law, all kinds of different, all kinds of different bills that more extreme groups are trying to push, which changes Israel to the bones. I mean, it changes the heart of the nation in a very, very dramatic way, that we are waking up to a completely different Israel that was anticipated by the founding fathers, but that was formed through the accumulation of a set of laws over the last 75 years. And they're trying to do that within 2-3 months. They're not allowing process of maturity of an amendment, as for example in the US, whenever you amend in the Constitution, this is a process that takes few years of dialogue, of discussion, where the system comes to some kind of a maturity to say, we're now mature to change, we're now mature to move into a new phase. I mean, amendments to Constitution are legitimate, but not to be stolen by a narrow majority. And right now, the feeling is that a lot of decisions, huge amount of decisions and bills that are being introduced that change Israel dramatically in such a fast way that will make Israel get derailed from its original path in its shape, but also specifically in its relationship to women, in its relationship to LGBT, in its relationship to Arab citizens, in its relationship to the working class, in becoming much more supportive of radical policies such as settlements and takeover of Palestinian lands, delegitimization of 21% of the Arab citizens, pouring billions of dollars into the religious parties that want to refrain from even being part of the mainstream Israeli society, whether it's in labor or even in education or any of that. So the volume of changes that are proposed make everyone now use terms that this is a legal coup and not actually just reforms. The use of the term legal reforms is very confusing, because we're not talking about reforms actually. We're talking about drastic, some people call it even stealing of the government and derailing it to making it closer to a dictatorship than a democracy.
It's important
Just
to say that none of these laws passed already, but they are preparing them in the pipeline of legislation so they can pass them within 2 weeks if they want to do so.
Okay, we're moving into the next stage. I'm sharing with you the screen right now. The new program that we're going to be looking at. We're looking at the program called Through Others' Eyes and another program called Heart to Heart. And it's actually, we're going to share with you a little bit of what we do. We have with us Jinan Halabi, who is a photography teacher, and Jinan completed their photography studies at the Glitz School of Photography and is an art teacher in the public school system and an instructor of photography for adults. She's new to our programs, and but you'll be able to hear from her about her engagement and her role with us. Tav Sagi is an alumni program coordinator. He's been with Givat Haviva for a longer time. He's focusing on informal education and leads youth programs for Shomer Tzair youth movement, and has led the leadership group Through Others' Eyes for the last 4 years as a staff member. Then we'll come back for a discussion, but we felt that we want to combine the discussion about the political scene in Israel with real work that we do on the ground. So Tav and Jinan, I'm moving things to you. You'll introduce the 4 youth participants with us. So once you start speaking, I'll also put the screen back and give information about the youth participants.
Okay, so
Here's Tav.
hi everyone. I'm Tav, and Jinan here with me, and we're both leading the program Through Others' Eyes. I will say just in a few words about the goals of the programs and what it's all about. The program is a program of photography, as we're using photography as a way, as a tool to get connected Arabs and Jews youth in the age of 17 and 16, and they meet every week, every single week for 3 hours, as we both teach them photography. Jinan is a photography teacher, and also we have them talk and speak with each other, and we have activities, different kinds of activities, starting with more of just getting to know each other, getting to know the other, and then also talk about the sensitive parts, and talk about racism in Israel, talk about the gaps that are happening between Arabs and Jews in Israel. And in the end, we decide together what we want to do, what message we want to pass to the world, and we create a whole exhibition that also shows up abroad, and in Israel, in Tel Aviv, and that's pretty much the program. It's the whole year. In the end of the year, we're going on a big trip. It used to be in the States. Now we're also focusing on a new department that we can go to, this new destination. And that's the program, as we're very, very excited to do it every year, every single year. The program is running over 20 years already, and it's exciting every time. And that's pretty much the program.
Jinan, you want to introduce yourself for a minute before we move forward? You need to unmute yourself, Jinan.
Hi everyone, nice to meet you all. I'm Jinan Halabi, the coordinator of the Through Other Eyes program. I am also the photography teacher, and this is my third year working in Givat Haviva. Through Other Eyes is a very special program from the common life. Jewish Arab youth who learn to live together through photography and get to know each other. I think that the best way to teach about values is for a youth age in order to reach the goal, especially through the art through the art or photography, since it get people together. That's all.
Okay, so do you want to introduce the participants, Tav?
Yeah, so I can see there is a Sami here. All of the participants are participants that are right now in the program. They started a few months ago, and they're still going through the program. They're in the process. So I see Jonathan is here, Yali, Sami, Tala, Yuli, and they will introduce themselves more and talk about the program later.
So who wants to start and tell us about
I
themselves
would
and the
like to
program?
start.
Go ahead, Jonathan. You need to unmute yourself.
So hi, I'm Jonathan. I'm 15. I live in Pardes Chana, which is in northern Israel. I came to this program because I think Israel is in need of change. I think it needs to start with the youth. And I think it's an amazing program and it should go on like forever. And it is really amazing. And that's it, I think.
So Jonathan, what did this program expose you to that you were not exposed to before?
I wasn't exposed to the Arab citizens who live like 10 minutes away from me. I'm not kidding. If I will go to my dad's car right now and he will drive me 10 minutes, I will arrive to our Arabic city. And I think that it is absurd that they live so near us, but we don't know nothing about them, about the culture and the people. And I think that it is really not okay. We are both citizens of the same country and we should know each other. So this is, I think, the best part about this program, because if we don't know each other, we can't make any difference.
Jonathan, Steffi Kirchner from Pittsburgh asks, how did you learn about this program?
We just talk to each other, first of all. You know, both sides are teenagers. We just talk to each other. We ask about each other's hobbies, family, and also with Tav and Jinan. They guided us through the process.
Okay, who else wants to come in as from the youth? Who wants to speak?
I can, no problem.
Okay, Yuli, go ahead.
So, hello everyone. Good to see you all. My name is Yuli. I'm 15 years old. I live in Kibbutz Magal, which is 15 minutes from Yonatan. All around my specific kibbutz, we have like many Arab villages, Arab cities, like quite a few, not so many. But the thing is, we live really close, and as Jonathan said, it's I'm not muted. So yeah, so it's truly amazing to just interact with the teenagers my age, which is something that I was always interested in, forming true connections with people from different cultures. So yeah, I believe this program should be going on, and I really appreciate being in the program. I learn a lot
What
from it, and
what would you consider as your highlight, as maybe the most important moment that you had in the program?
the most important part up to now in the program was the house visit. We did one house visit in a Jewish house and one house visit in one of we did in Sarah's house. I'm not sure. I think she's here in Sarah's house. In the Jewish house, it was in my house. But more interesting for me, of course, was to go to the Arab house. So we visited, we made the knafe. It was amazing. We got to meet the family. They explained about themselves, their roles, what the parents work in. It was just like really nice to see the family itself, the house, like the building, first of all, is different, the structure, and also just like to go within the city. And yeah, like she lives really close, and I was never actually into the city, never got to learn about the house cultures and how everything works, because family traditions are different, paths of the teenagers, like how they go on, they finish school, I believe in the cultures it's different. So it was good to learn like how they look, how they see themselves into the future, the teenagers, the Arabs. So I believe I enjoyed that part.
Great, thank you very much. All right, who wants to go?
Thank
Sarah,
you.
since your name was mentioned, do you want to be next?
Hello everyone, my name is Sella. I am 16 years old, and the program is very, very amazing. I feel fun famous. I'm part of the program. I decided to join the program because I love and always stick to the deliverable needs schedule.
Great. All right, who's next with from the participants?
I am. Okay, hello everyone. I am Sammy. I'm 15 years old. I'm from Kwakara, and nice to meet you all. First of all, I'd like to start by saying what the program means to me. First of all, this program isn't just about photography and going to somewhere else, some other country. It really means a lot to me, other than that. Like for starting, let's say having some other friends from native cultures and everything else, like they have very big differences than our culture and everything. And it's really good that we can meet and talk together and stay together, be friends.
Sami, Ken and Hyla Kushner just wrote a comment and a question. They say, all of you have taken the initiative to get to know each other, but many of your friends and family probably did not. How have you shared your experiences and new learnings with other people? So maybe you start with this, and then Jonathan and Yuli and Tala, if you want to also jump in and comment on this.
Okay, first of all, I'd like to mention that I was also in the program called Heart to Heart, It was also kind of the same thing, but without the photography thing. And I've learned about through other eyes from heart to heart. And it's also how I mentioned it to my friends and family around me. It was like something have changed in me. I began to like respect other opinions. First of all, when I used to hear other opinions about like different things, maybe the conflict, you can say, I would get mad and I would not like the thing they're saying or their opinion. I didn't respect it at all. But after we met, I started to hear what different perspectives and different opinions. It began to go like it was nothing. Their opinion.
Did you know Jewish youth your age before participating in this program?
From heart to heart, yes. And
But from outside Givat Haviva?
Yes, I did have some friends, but not as close.
All right. Anyone else wants to share with us from the participants?
Yeah, so I never actually had an Arabic friend. So Through Other Eyes was my first opportunity to meet an Arabic friend. So,
And how does your community, friends, family respond to that?
We personally live in a place where it's always a blessing, like to meet and know other cultures and respect the others. But my family specifically, they were happy that I went for it, and they all really supported. And yeah.
Okay, Jinan and Tav, do you want to tell us, maybe expand the experiences that you meet with the youth? I mean, what's the impact of the program on larger population of youth as you see it?
The way that I see it is that these participants every year they come one and they finish another in a different way, and they become different, and they expand their messages to all their surroundings, and this makes the difference. As I can say, that every time when their parents come to a meeting, in the end, they teach their parents how to behave, and like they spread the message, and it always creates a big and a good discussion between the parents. And the exhibition and the photos is also another thing that makes a big impact, as the exhibition spreads, and people can see all the photos and all the statements that the students make and write, and those participants, they always want to come again. Like we finish one program, the students, they want to meet again, they want to see each other again, they want to see the exhibition again, and they want to talk to people and find a way to express. So this way I can see it's a big impact, and we always try to have them meet again, and think with them about special ways we can also do more things beyond the program. For example, we had one time that, like, throughout the coronavirus, then we met with each other after the program, and we all went all around to collect food for people who were less they couldn't have enough money to buy food, so we collected food, and the whole group went and gave the food for the poor people. So this way, I really
Tav,
believe that it's a big.
Can you also relate to a couple of questions that are coming into chat? Karen Rothschild asks, do the relationships last, especially through the years that the Jewish participants are in the military? And right before that, there was also another question from Sid Schwartz about, do you touch hot topics such as the Nakba, Jewish settlements over the Green Line, economic disparity between Jewish and Arab citizens?
Yes. So we do touch the hot topics, and it always, it's not simple. It's very, very hard. It's very sensitive. Every time that Independence Day and the Nakba Day comes together every year, so we talk with the group, and sadly, every year, almost every year, there is tensions, ongoing tensions between Arabs and Jews. So we bring it to the group to discuss, because we believe that if we don't discuss it, then it's not really gonna make a big impact. We can't just meet with each other and like eat hummus. It's not this kind of like programs. Like we really need to talk about the hot topics so we can have a shared message that we want to say together. And this always is a hard thing to do, and there is a big crisis along this process. But we get through it, and that's how we get stronger. The relationships last, but it's true that when the Jewish participants go to the military, it's very hard. It's very hard. I witnessed really hard conversations in WhatsApp groups that we have, because we have all the WhatsApp all over the years, and it's not easy. It's not easy until today. Every time the Jewish participants go to the military, it's big tension again, because I think this subject of being in the military is not solved. This is how I see it. It's still not solved, even with us as Jewish people that want to make the Israel a different state, and we don't believe that war is the solution, and we still go to the army, and it's still a thing that we need to also think. I think in Givat Haviva and in the whole left-wing camp, like how we want to address this situation.
Great, thank you. Jinan, you want to make a couple of comments about the questions and about mainly connect with what Michal started with about the political situation, and how is this affecting the discussions? How is this affecting the work? And maybe also the youth participants, Yuli, Jonathan, if you want to talk about the political atmosphere and how is it affecting your discussions. And also we have a question that came in from Donna Malamud. How are you addressing today's issues? Perfect, Donna. We are in the same. You're asking the same question I was asking. Any one of the youth participants that want to respond?
I would like to respond.
Go ahead.
To which question?
How is the reality outside in the last 3-4 months since the elections? How does this come into your discussions?
We did discuss this, the environment, not so much. I don't know why, maybe because Tav and Jinan wouldn't know that this would happen. They couldn't know. But I personally did speak with some of the participants, but in the breaks between each class we had, I think that the thoughts about the situation is pretty one-minded. We're all thinking that it shouldn't be this way, and that we need to change it and to protest. This is what I got from talking with the other participants.
Okay. Any one of the participants wants to comment on this? How does today's reality come into the discussions that you have in the programs at Givat Haviva?
Yeah, I can add something. It's okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so that's actually where the program gets interesting in those exact conversations that you were talking about, like the hot topics. That to me, that's where it gets interesting because that's what we came to talk about. We do even before like we make a conversation, Tav and Jinan, they like we do a preparation, we set like guidelines for the conversation, how it's going to happen. Then when we start, it's really interesting to see the sides of each, because obviously it's not like all good and goes smooth, and that's where it's also comes in interesting. Each side brings his own sayings, and we all like learn more about each other. Yeah.
All right. Anyone else wants to add from the youth participants? Sami or Tala, you want to add something, or Jinan? Okay, so maybe Tav, you want to say last word, and then we'll come back to the Q&A with the political discussion that Michal started. We know that there were a few more questions that were being sent to us, so we'll start coming back to zooming out. But Tav, take us into the bridging moment.
I will conclude. I think education is the most powerful thing that we can do to make a change. This is why I do education, and I chose this way. And I believe in the youth. I think the youth, they have more nerves. They have courage, and they can do things that most adults don't have enough energy or belief that they can make the change. And I think that this is a big part of Givat Haviva that is very important, is that we have those programs that they can also have make connections between Jews and Arabs, but this is not enough. Not just making the connections, but actually have a message of a shared society that they can spread. And we always think how we can make it better, how we can make the leadership group stronger, and this is really what we need to do, I think, to make the bigger impact, and they can do a lot. So I believe in them, and I want to take them and go with them and spread the message and make a difference.
Great, thank you, Tav. So before we come back to the Q&A, maybe a couple of the participants from in this Zoom meeting or board members, if you want to make a comment before Michal takes us back into the Zoom out. Second call.
I'll just say congratulations on all that hard work that you're doing. It's a long haul, but you've been committed to it for a long time, and especially the young people. I congratulate you on all the stretches and all the gains that you're making. So thank you.
All right, I see a lot of people are writing in chat. Thanks to the youth participants, and an opportunity for me also to say thank you. You're welcome to stay with us until the end of the program for the remaining 15 minutes. But Michal, you want to take us back into the original discussion?
Only if there are more questions. I saw that there were a few hands.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yes, I have two questions, actually. This is Pamela.
Can you introduce yourself,
I'm
Pamela?
Pamela Faith Lerman. I presently live in Westchester, New York, but was in Albany, New York, where I brought Through Others' Eyes exhibit to Albany 5 years ago. So nice to see you and everybody. I totally adore your work and this program. And I am friends with Yaniv. So that's where I come from. And Bob.
Wonderful.
I first of all want to know whether you're planning to come back to the States with the exhibit soon. And if so, I'd like to be in touch about helping to move that along. That's number one. Number two, I am wondering if the program has contact with Palestinian youth at this time.
Okay, for the first question, yes, we will be coming to the States. We don't have dates yet, but that will be coordinated by Sadie from our US office. Sadie is on the call. She has your contact information.
Okay.
And we will coordinate that with you. Sadie, can you confirm that? Yes.
Yes,
Excellent.
I'll be in touch.
Excellent. Thank
The
you.
second thing is that through specifically using art as a vehicle for contact, also across the green line, across the border. This has been a big aspiration for us. So the art center at Givat Haviva, we've had a number of exhibitions of Palestinian artists or joint Israeli-Palestinian artworks together that were presented together, or exhibitions that presenting a certain issue from two different perspectives. We've done this many, many, many times.
And even Iranian artists this year.
And sorry?
And even Iranian artists this year.
Yeah. And we'll continue to do that. Programs that bring in youth together between Israel and the Palestinian Authority are a bit of an issue because of the or what's called no normalization policy of many of the Palestinian educational institutions. But within our international school, which is also part of Givat Haviva, we have Palestinian students and we have Palestinian staff that live on campus. So we've managed through that vehicle to integrate some Palestinian youth as students and staff in our international school. But working cross-border maybe is not as the main to everyday threshold or everyday program that we work on since 2006, since this boycott, declared boycott by the Palestinian Authority. But here and there, we're able to still maintain some engagement, and the first opportunity that will come in which we will run a program with Palestinians across the border, we will do it. And thank you, Pamela, for being a great supporter for the program.
Thank you.
And Mohammad, I think it's maybe, hi Pamela, it's also, I think, important to mention that during the days of the last government, the Palestinian Authority did reach out and talk to us and came for 2 conferences in Givat Haviva and also invited us to Ramallah. So, of course, when this government took power, everything changed. But I think that in the minute that they will have the window of opportunity, they will reach out to Givat Haviva again. I really hope so, and I think they will.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any questions, comments from everyone here? We still have some time. Otherwise, you'll be hearing our long lectures. Steve, I saw that you unmuted yourself.
Do you mean questions broadly or specifically? I have some broad questions just to.
You can go broad. We're zooming out.
Of your and Michal's assessment of the likely trajectory of what I think is one of Israel's.
Steve, just introduce yourself first.
Oh.
If you can introduce yourself first.
Oh, yeah, I'm Steve Riskin. I work at the U.S. Institute of Peace in Washington. And can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay. Just to get an idea closer to the ground of what you see as the likely trajectory in this crisis and how things are going to play out, what role there may be for the diaspora from organizations outside the country, just to get a sense. It seems like it's a pretty serious crisis and a turning point. And I'm just wondering, sitting from so far away, how is this going to play out? How can this turn around?
I think that it depends, like in my opinion, first of all, no one can predict Israeli politics. So I think that's very important to understand. in my opinion, first of all, we're not sure these bills and laws are going to pass, right? As I said, nothing passed yet. They just, preparing it in the pipeline. So in Israel, you have to pass 3 votes. Every bill have to pass 3 votes in the parliament, and some of these bills didn't pass even 1 vote, and some of them only passed 1 vote. So they still have another 2 votes to go. So we're not sure it's going to happen. I think that the huge demonstration and protest is really, really affecting the government, because there's a huge unrest in civil society in Israel. And also groups that never took part in any kind of protest are now really fighting for its democracy. For instance, I don't know if you heard about the group of pilots that said that they're not going to go to the reserve, and also quite a lot high-ranked officers that said that they're not going to go to reserves to join, the next, war that Israel is going to take on. So that's the first thing. And also the high-tech industry that is now pulling their funds from Israel, and also some of them are planning to move their headquarters from Israel, is something really, really alarming, especially for Netanyahu. So I think there are forces that are, that can convince Netanyahu that it's not the right way to go. That's first. And second, I think, and Mohammad and I, that's funny, Mohammad and I just talked about it today. I think that this time the diaspora role is crucial. And what we see in the US today, for instance, that the Jewish communities, and not only the progressive communities, but all kinds of communities, are refusing to host and to talk with Smotrich, one of the most outright, crazy, populist, right-wing politicians and ministers. That's amazing, and it really helps because it echoes in Israel. And also, I think it creates some kind of, I won't say fear, but maybe some cautious behavior from the really extreme and dangerous ministers, because no one wants to be treated like Smotrich was treated in the US today. And I think he got the message. And I think Netanyahu is getting the message as well. So it's not like everything is lost. I think there's a huge value in the fight.
I will add, if you allow me, our approach specifically at Givat Haviva is that, we don't see things as a zero-sum game. We see the possibilities of engagement, and we try to make sure that we hang on them. For example, we launched under the past government a pilot project for teachers exchange, having Arab teachers and Jewish teachers exchange for 1 semester. We did it with 14 pairs, 14 Arab schools and 14 Jewish schools. It was a pilot that was in coordination, close coordination with the Office of the Director General of the Ministry of Education, with the Office of the Minister of Education in the past government, and supervised directly by the Deputy Director General for pedagogy in the Ministry of Education. And just last week, we asked, where's the future of this program? Because we're submitting this project for funding from MEPA, from USAID, and we asked the Ministry of Education, what's the future of this program? Is there trajectory for growth of this program, or are we going to fold this pilot? And their answer was, let's talk numbers. Next year, next school year in September, we want you to expand from 14 pairs to 50 pairs, the following year to 75 pairs, and the year after to 100 pairs. So this will make it the biggest project in the field of Jewish-Arab relations ever, that 200 schools will be engaged in this teachers exchange. Every teacher will be touching about 300 kids, and then 200 schools, you're talking about 60,000 kids into this program. So that's, we can't say no for this. We have to say yes. This is the bread and butter of what we've been doing in the field of peace education, and this is an opportunity that we have to grab on, and which means that we do not see things as only through the dark angle of them, while we see a lot of dark. On the other discussion, just about a week ago, I got an invitation from the Ministry of Education to join a committee that basically drafts the pedagogic content of civics education. So it's a committee of 10 people, 5 from the Ministry of Education and 5 outsiders, people from the outside. And I will be one of the 5 from the outside the ministry that will be in the committee that determines what is civics education in Israel. So maybe some people think that I will be some kind of an Arab decoration, but they got the wrong guy for that. You know, I'm going to have an opinion and a perspective, and definitely I'm going to affect whatever civics education is going to be like if I end up being approved at the end of the process. And that's under the, you know, the invitation was, it came through the auspices of the current Minister of Education, with whom we have many other issues of conflict. I mean, we have issues that we do not agree with, but at the same time, we maintain some kind of a working relationship to protect what we're able to protect, to make sure that things do not get lost. And Michal keeps always saying that, you know, 5 years from today, this government is probably not going to be here, but we're going to be here. Our work is going to continue. Our programs are going to continue to grow. More youth, such as the ones that you met today, are going to continue coming. This year, we have how many more? How many folds over in comparison with last year, Michal? I think it's 4 times more. 4 times more youth participants. Some of them are coming just because they fear that the situation is bad, and this is the time to act. This is the time to bring Jewish and Arab youth to come and engage. So the problem creates demand for us, especially from mixed cities, which faced the crucial clashes about a couple of years ago. And suddenly they look for answers, and they see us as the providers of answers through our educational engagement. So it's hard to say that things are only going into bad trajectory. There is the potential of flipping over and changes going in the wrong direction. And I think that the increase in demand is a show that there is a counter dynamics that is happening. You know, Yair Lapid came to visit our campus yesterday. This is the first time he comes to visit our campus. You know, clearly the head of the last government is looking for solutions, and he found us as the place to be looking for. And this happened only yesterday, exactly 24 hours ago. Larry, you wanted to say something?
I have to get off the phone call because another meeting. So
we all will
good
finish
session.
in 2 minutes.
Good session.
Thank you very much. So Michal, we have 1.5 minutes to close. So other than, you know, I always like to say, give us more donations, give us more donations, give us more donations. We need them today more than ever before. But Michal is gentler.
We need them today more than ever before, but also I don't want you to be depressed from the situation here in Israel. I think the situation is very challenging, but I think backlash can work both ways. So if this government is a backlash to the last government and the fact that Palestinians were part of the coalition, now let us backlash as well. And we're doing whatever we can to do that. And we really feel your support. So thank you for that.
So the last thing is that, you know, this was recorded, so Sadie will be able to share it. You can share it with your friends. And also when we send you the newsletter or requests for support and funding, please interact by passing those requests to other friends so that we can increase the number of people in our community. We got at some point today to 67 participants out of 100 reservations. That is a huge percentage. Jeremy, you are an expert in this field. You know, to get 67% actual show up is a fantastic, which is a testimony of the faith and good friendship that we have with you. So thank you very much, and have a wonderful evening or rest of the day, wherever you are. Bye-bye.
Thanks a lot.
Bye. Thank you
Thank
so much,
you.
everyone.
Thank you much.